friends, my name is Marines and today I have a 2 pros and a con review of Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I'll start by saying that I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars, so the con that I'm going to mention in this video clearly didn't weigh it down too much for me, though I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you why the story fell just shy of the 5-star mark for me. There's a little sneak peek into my Q3 haul, but I did immediately purchase the physical copy after I finished reading it, but I like the UK cover better than the US one. And I bought the darker shade of magic to match. Okay, enough cheating on my haul. Vicious is the story of 2 men, Victor and Eli, who start off as college roommates. Through some of their research, they discovered that certain kinds of near-death experiences can result in the development of powers. Superpowers, like hero powers. The story jumps around in time, so we go from their college days to the present, where Victor has just escaped out of prison and he is bent on finding and stopping his now arch nemesis, Eli. If you haven't read this book, probably don't watch this video because
spoilers.
We'll start with the first pro for me, and that was that all of the characters were wonderfully complex. You guys know that I'm really tough on jerk characters and morally ambiguous ones, but oh my goodness, this story has them in spades, and I just felt like they were so well done. My friend Wendy and I were chatting about this book, and she brought up the brilliant point that it lacks a moral center. No one here is good except for maybe Sydney, and she's a little bit too young and impressionable to be the true moral center of this story. Eli and Victor are both immoral characters, though one of them is doing really bad things for what he believes are the right reasons, and the other is doing things that we root for revenge and selfishly motivated reasons. Victor is staged as the villain, but I basically rooted for him the whole time. One of the elements that is mentioned in the story is that perhaps EOs come back with something missing. Nothing is ever said about that conclusively, which I loved, but it allowed the author to delve into the morality of her characters even more. We have our supposed villain, for instance, who mentions that he feels his lack of conscience since coming back. But he set up these boundaries for himself to act as his conscience. We see this in Eli too, but in him it manifests as certain rituals that he undertakes while murdering people. How much can you say that someone doesn't have a conscience when they've specifically set up boundaries to keep themselves from acting in a certain way? Isn't that just a conscience? I'm not sure if subtle is quite the right word to describe this element of the story because it's pretty obviously talked about, but all of these different factors of the character morality are the kind of stuff that you could just fall into and think about and talk about for a long time, and I love that. Serena was another character that I just could not stop thinking about. She's an EO that basically gives her sister over to be murdered because she believes that once you come back from the dead, you are no longer yourself. Again, that is something you can take at face value, but when you start thinking about it more, about Serena's own will to live and about how not being herself isn't stopping her from living, but is somehow motivating her to stop her sister from living, so much weird morality going on there, and I just don't buy that Serena was acting in the favor of her sister in any way, shape, or form. I can't do it. I can't accept it. The last thing that I'll say on this point is that one of the themes explored by the story is the one of family. Eli and Victor both come from very strange families, very non-attentive families, and you could say that that builds some of their characters even before they become EOs. But the main thing that I love so much is that Victor builds his own family. This is a huge reason why I love Buffy, even though I struggled so much with it, but that entire concept of surrounding yourself with the family that you choose is one that I love. The last impression that this book left on me was of that misfit family, and I would deposit money directly in Victoria's pocket if she wrote another book about this band of misfits eating breakfast and doing legally questionable things. I don't know why I said breakfast. It could be dinner too. My second pro is shorter, and it's just that I love the world building here so much. Maybe some people will feel like it wasn't fleshed out enough, but because this was a character story to me, I felt like it was just the right amount to prop that up without doing too much and without doing too little. There was this really great explanation of where the abilities come from and how people obtain extraordinary abilities, plus which ability they get specifically. But it wasn't over-explained. I love that the abilities was something that already existed in this world, and presumably our world, so much so that the police were already aware that there were these people out there, but we didn't have to go into much history or detail of how they knew or how long they knew. It was just something that was. And it was super easy to accept because it had that explanation of the abilities themselves to back it up. My one con is a personal preference and a reading mood kind of thing, but I found this book to be a slow burn. It jumps around in time, as I I mentioned, from college days to more present time. And while I don't have issues with stories that are told that way, I do feel like sometimes it takes a while to be able to sink your teeth into the story because you're not laying enough of it down before you're jumping to the next thing. You're flipping around with so much regularity that it's almost like it takes more time to get attached or invested into the story. Some people will find that their curiosity pushes them forward, but I just felt like I knew where the story was going and it was still being laid out in such small pieces. Now, I will say that I did know where the story was going, but I did not expect the character building stuff that happened on top of that plot. It still managed to surprise me, even though plot-wise there wasn't anything too crazy here. Character-wise, the author was constantly throwing in these little things that caught me off guard or that made me kind of rework the way that I saw the characters or their motivations. I reached just before the midpoint of the story and I put it down, and I left it down for a couple of weeks before I was able to return and just kind of keep reading through it. Putting it down and leaving it there for a few weeks would usually be a really big strike against a book, but from the midpoint on it just flowed so much easier. Yes, it took time to get going, and that is my one con, and that is why I took off half a star. But by the time that I finished the book, I was just so appreciative of the careful storytelling, and every piece felt like it was told for a purpose. This is a very introspective book at times, and I feel like that might turn some people off, but obviously I loved it. I just have not stopped thinking about this book since I finished it, and I can't wait to talk about it with you guys and see what you guys thought. If you've read Vicious, let me know down in the comments, and I'm also very curious, who was your favorite character? Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon. Hello friends, my name is Marinés, and today I have a review of you. I hope you've been good.